The 2015 Australian movie Mad Max Fury Road is set in a post-apocalyptic desert wasteland, and in this stark landscape with limited amounts of water, food, gas, and humanity, everyone is crazed fighting for basic resources. The fearless Imperator Furiosa, one of most respected warriors of the tyrant Immortal Joe, betrays him and his loyal gang, the Wild Boys, flees the Citadel in her truck with Joe's 5 wives for breeding, searching for Furiosa's childhood homeland filled with resources and hopes, the Greenland. With Furiosa and Max being both more action-based instead of about words spoken, the movie is a visually driven action film that is known for minimal dialogue. And throughout this video, I will be asking the question, how does this aspect of the film use its visual language to convey messages that align with feministic ideals? I will be using scholarly research to show you how the film exactly uses its visual language to support things like female agency, solidarity, bodily autonomy, and resistance to patriarchy. Before we begin, I want to give you some context about visual language in movies. In the class textbook, The Moving Picture by Russell Sharman, he talks about mise-en-scène, cinematography, editing, all of which is the art used by the director when conveying a story. Design of every frame can reveal or hide information, indicate power or weakness, all without words. How Mad Max Fury Road uses these cinematic elements is that it relies on characterization, composition, and camera angles to show gender balance. The big focus of this video will be on mise-en-scène, which refers to every element in the frame that contributes to the overall look of a film, like characterization, lighting, setting, composition. I will also talk about cinematography, the art of motion pictures, specifically diving deeper into lighting and composition. The introduction of all the characters provide lots of rooms for comparison, and these comparisons show parallels of power balance and the characters. For example, here we see Furiosa introduced, and we only saw her from a behind-the-back angle where we could only see her back, her shaved head, clothing, and robotic arm in this scene as she gets in the car. The inability to see her face or her body is a deliberate decision made by the director to show that this is not like the other films we have seen in this class of sexualized action heroine tropes. Here we see Furiosa actively start a journey to 2 dangerous places, Bullet Farm and Gas Town, in order to obtain scarce resources, risking her life for the mission. On the other hand, the introduction to Immortal Joe, we also see his back, but his back is full of sores that he covers up with armor. Even in this initial introduction of Joe and Furiosa, we are visually presented these parallels of their leadership qualities. Joe is seen stepping into everyone's view and getting praised for just talking. Visually, we see this parallel by the height of where they stand. Here we see Joe is at the highest level of the Citadel, while Furiosa is on the same ground level as the War Boys and the survivors. Joe not only embodies weakness and insecurities, he is using unethical ways of violence, deprivation, and oppression to gain and exercise power, while Furiosa is actively on her way to become part of the change. In Sostiros Bambatsimopio's article called Examining Imperator Furiosa, references Furiosa's physical attributes as an important element to the feminist ideals of the film. Furiosa's physical character design of her shaved head, grease on her forehead, and practical clothing is the camera actively avoiding sexualizing her, which emphasizes her strength and skills of driving and combat and leadership instead of her body. We also see the equal playing field of men and women through the composition. By fighting Max on their first interaction, the director physically sets her on the same grounds as the man she is fighting, literally and figuratively. Once they are on the road to the Green Place, Furiosa further showcases her capabilities when Max is unable to shoot the car catching up to them, but Furiosa steps in and without judgment finishes the job for him. In Kevin Gallagher's article, Old Hands, New Breed, that we read in class, he provides further insight on how this movie reflects and shapes cultural conversations around gender roles. He argues that Fury Road sends a feminist message through reconfiguration of who gets to be an action hero. He points out that even though this movie is a Mad Max movie, so Max is present, he is not the center. Furiosa is literally and figuratively the driver here. From all of this functional framing of her, Furiosa resists objectification. Some critics of the film might argue that the five wives are a representation of anti-feminist ideals because they're dressed in revealing and tight clothing, as we see here. When they're introduced, they're in a soft light washing themselves, so I do see where they are coming from. However, I argue that their clothing is intended to illustrate Joe's control over them. Joe saw them as things, but once free from him, we see that they're all individually strong and capable. This idea of feminism depicted through visual language is reinforced further with the Volvolini, who almost all resemble grandmothers. They are introduced by emerging from hiding spots on cool motorbikes, their old age implying wisdom, resilience, and combat experience. In Belinda Duploy's reading of gender, heroism, and redemption in Mad Max Fury Road, Duploy argues that the film restructures the hero's journey. Instead of an individual masculine-female action hero, the movie incorporates collaborative female survival we see here with Furiosa, the wives, and the Volvolini, all different ages of women actively contributing to action scenes, and they're filmed all in dynamic shots showing cooperation, symbolizing strong female bonds that strengthen each other through comfort and strength. This scene visually presents teamwork and collective courage, underlining feminist revision of action tropes and counterclaims of wife's purpose serving only for the male gaze. Furthermore, the women in the film visually proves their fighting abilities as they are not shown in sexualizing camera angles and they throw punches and blows the same way. Beatrice Smith's Is Mad Max Fury Road a Feminist Film? Argues that the film is because it allows female characters to shape the narrative. Also, that it shows women as capable and skilled fighters and leaders, all to empower women as a whole. This is relevant because we are shown in the beginning of the film of how Joe only sees women as objects to control. Here, Joe realizes that the wives are missing from their vault. We are revealed the sterile and closed environment that is white, smooth, and stripped of any personal objects, making the small space feel more like a controlled breeding chamber than a living space. Its soft glowing light creates an artificial sense of purity, while the minimalist mise-en-scène emphasizes how the space is designed for containment rather than for comfort or humanity. Also, in the scene prior, we are introduced to the Milk Mothers. The director uses harsh industrial mise-en-scène of tubes, metal machinery, and a dark factory-like room to portray the women as commodities rather than people. The cold, unforgiving light further strips away warmth or humanity, reinforcing the patriarchal society that treats their bodies as resources to be harvested. Similarly, the chastity belt worn by his favorite wife represents his control even over their own sexual freedom. After witnessing how thoroughly the film exposes the systems that confine and exploit these women, the narrative power shifts as the story begins allowing its female characters to reshape their own futures rather than remain trapped in Joe's design. In the end, Mad Max Fury Road uses its visual language for the film's feminist message. The journey from the Citadel's vault, a literal cage built under Joe's control, to the open desert creates a clear metaphor for breaking away from patriarchal power. The wide, harsh landscape becomes a space where the woman can finally move, think, and fight freely. And when they return to the Citadel at the end, it isn't a return to oppression, but a reclaiming of what once trapped them. By rising back up into the space that originally confined them, the woman transformed a symbol of domination into one of agency. Through this movement from confinement to openness and back again, the film visually reinforces its larger point, that power can be taken back, systems can be changed, and women in this world and ours can rewrite the structures that once controlled them.